All right, Alex, your 2016 Inception is done. So, this is everything you'll be getting in the mail. A couple tools you will need is you'll need a .05 Allen wrench for your blade retention screw. It's really tiny. And you'll also need a flathead for your chassis retention screw down here. So that's all you'll need on that avenue. Everything you'll be getting, surprise, surprise, you'll get your saber, your blade, duh, right? Have your static pommel cap, have an extra 18350 battery, and you have the chassis that did not work with this hilt, as well as the original CoverTech screw. This CoverTech screw will not work with this chassis. You will need to source a longer 632 screw. I believe it's by 7/16 of an inch is what I ended up having that worked well for me. So, whenever you get it, I probably won't send it with the battery inserted, just in case, but...
You can't win. Let negotiations begin.
So I went ahead and updated your board to the most recent, the 10.08A, I believe, and updated it with the default package, as well as changing the config file over to Irv Plechter's config file, which has a lot of blade profiles on it. I didn't even know that the default packages came with blade profile specific config files. There's one for Irv Plechter. There's also one for like Powell power-ups, and there's two others. You can literally just go into the SD card and rename it as config, and you're good to go. And change the LED strip count and the orientation of the board. But yeah, there's all kinds of good stuff on here. Actually, first thing, I gotta show you that crystal reveal. So in order to access it, just unscrew the grenade grip. You have a lovely Goth 3 Designs crystal reveal with that amazing 18 karat. I believe we chose 18 karat. Couldn't remember if it's 14 or 18. That gold plated brass, so it will not tarnish over time. Have your copper tubing and your brass rods, as well as a brass threaded rod to connect the upper and the lower. These have all been polished and sealed with varnish so that they will not tarnish over time neither. Got your real quartz crystals. USB-C access right below the crystal chamber. That is for charging. You will see a red LED down in there, and it'll turn green whenever it's fully charged. Alternatively, you can unscrew the CoverTech screw and pull out the speaker pod. And it's a removable battery that way.
You're wasting your time.
No, I'm not. I'll go and demonstrate that for you now. So you don't have to pull it out all the way, but it is kind of hard to figure out exactly what the right amount of unscrewing is you'll need. So here you have your 18350 battery, your battery speaker PCB, as well as a 28mm Railmaster. And I did mark positive and negative as well. CFX does have reverse board or reverse battery polarity protection, but I'm not sure if that fries a component on the board or not. I don't want to find out, honestly. CFX boards are kind of touchy. Now you will see these grooves here as well as the hole there. So that hole is what this screw threads into. And I have these two grooves here, that way it indexes with those grooves on the inside perfectly every time. So it only goes in one way. You can't put it in this way or nothing. So it has to go.
Surely we can be
that
civilized
way.
about this.
And if you don't want to fumble around with holding that in place, you can screw on your pommel. That'll get the chassis where it needs it to be. You can screw this in to where it's good and tight. You can unscrew this again. And it's solid as can be. You do get a little bit of sound up. Actually, I haven't tried this yet. Let's try it completely sealed. I bet you the only sound you're going to get is going to be out of the hole. You can get a little bit out of the bottom there, but not much. Huge difference.
Missed me. You're wasting your time.
You, of course, want to be somewhat careful with this. You know, you don't want to, have all the weight of this holding down on it, because with how this was, I couldn't use that chassis for it, so it's mainly held on there with E6000. All throughout there, everywhere. And I do love that you can still access the SD card there. I literally just did that earlier to put all the new fonts on there and update the firmware. And yeah, it worked great. This is your chassis retention greebly for here, so don't undo that. Because if you undo that and start tugging on it, then the wires there are eventually going to snap. And I will tell you, it's a tight fit. It was kind of difficult to get those in there. But how this crystal chamber is set up is it will mimic your blade. It is set up on the LS2 pad. Your purple wire there is for the LS2. And it's just set up to mimic. You can configure it however the end user wants to. There's your battery level indicator. Oh, we're setting that. I thought this was fully charged. Anyways.
Lovely. More smiling faces.
Show off the tip drag effect. I'll hold it down, or pointing down, hold auxiliary, and clash. So that works great.
There's never time to limber up.
I know the next font has a track.
Selection. This is General Kenobi. Ancient prophecies.
So with the quick interaction guide I sent you, it's, double tap activation for a track. Found this track on there earlier. I thought that was kind of cool. Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Selection. Audio player.
And there's only the one audio track on there right now.
SD card system menu.
So,
SD card USB access.
For that, whenever you have, so it's at about the good 9.5 minute mark. So, for the SD card access, what you'll want to do is
SD card USB access.
you'll navigate to that, plug in your USB-C. You got to make sure that it's for data transfer as well as charging. So not every USB-C cable will work, but you just got to make sure it's for data transfer. So if you can plug in your phone to the computer and transfer data that way, then you'll know that it'll work. So yeah, you plug it in.
System menu. SD card USB access.
Once you plug it in,
SD card USB access.
instead of saying that, it'll go mute, and it'll open up your file on the computer. Or it'll open up your SD card on the computer. Then whenever you're done, you can just click auxiliary and it'll go back to the last font you used. This was a bit of a tricky saber. You have your blade side PCB there. I ended up using I'll go and take the blade out and show you what all I used for all this good stuff. So I used a TCSS PCB holder. It's got all 11 pins. I also 3D printed a holder for the stock V3 PCB. And for your blade, I believe I made this about 31 inches total length. It's either 31 or 32, I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's got a good balance, it doesn't wobble whenever you swing it around, it feels good. And I did my usual method of 3 set screws. Use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, get rid of that black mark. I used my usual method of 3 set screws, fed into a transparent pixel PCB holder, and this is the stock pixel PCB that has the 5 pixels on it. So not only do you have these LEDs shining up this portion of the blade, and that being transparent, it also transfers light. You also have the 5 LEDs from that pixel PCB, getting rid of that dead spot, which is kind of caused by a recessed blade PCB. And the set screws are perfectly hidden as soon as you put it down. So I'm gonna just toot my own horn and say good job, Aaron, on that one. God, that just keeps happening to me. That power detector. So what font are we on?
Sound bank selection.
Ancient. This is General Kenobi.
Go backwards. Let's go to gray meat. I like gray meat quite a bit. So it currently has Spectrum Mode 3 on, so you can actually do legacy browsing by clicking and holding auxiliary and twisting it, which you can go either way, so I really like that. Or you can do the Spectrum color wheel type deal, auxiliary and act, and just rotate through. So we'll just go with a light blue. Then we have our blade profiles. Let's get some better lighting in here. So there's the light blue. It's pretty well static. Got some flickering there with a white center blade. Sparkling all throughout. This kind of makes me think of Unstable. Rainbow scroll up. You got Eye of Sauron pretty much. Flowing up fire. Don't even know how to describe that. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there. Scrolling up fire. It's a nice simple static flicker. A little more of like a pulsing flicker. And this, it's like a rain blade. It's red automatically, I don't know why. I think the ones that you'll be really interested in are, there's a nice pulse. I like that pulsing. And you just click auxiliary and it locks it in place. And you can always keep the blade profile and just change the color to whatever you want. This is one thing I really like about collector boards. They're super user friendly. And like I said before, if you don't like the config file it currently has, the Irv Plector config, you can always just access your SD card contents and you'll see the config file, and you'll want to, I would say compare, but you don't really have to. You can rename that as Irv Plector config, and then you can go to like the Powell config file and rename that as just config. That way that is current your active config. Then you'll just need to change your board orientation to 3, since it's facing that way and it's upside down. Let's see. Oh yeah, and your LED count will be 110. So that's why I'm saying don't just delete your config file, just rename it as, like Plector underscore config or something. That way it won't recognize it as the active config. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you. Oh, and your volume. Set your volume at 75. I'll probably go ahead and change that in the other config files just in case, because I don't want you to blow a speaker, because, yeah. You can see it's just 3D printed plastic that I made for the speaker grill. But it's 100%. It's solid infill, so there's no worry about smacking the speaker and shorting it out, or, damaging it with your finger or anything. So it's too bad this didn't come with the vented pommel. That would have made life a lot easier, but oh well, I got it going for you. Just a couple more challenges. These retrofits are always a challenge. They're never easy. Let's see. Anything else I need to cover? I can't think of anything else. Anyways, I hope you like it. I hope your friend likes it, and I hope her son loves it. So I hope that went in depth on everything, and I'll talk to you later.